It's okay to start over. I'm saying this today in part because quite often it becomes such a negative, destructive habit from people who aren't finishing that they're spinning their wheels, never getting anywhere, that we get this sense that starting over is always some sort of form of quitting or some sort of failure state, or that we are destined to never finish the thing if we toss it out and try to start over. But here's the thing. Provided that you're past that hurdle and you've finished some things, you've released some things, you've gotten past that milestone in your learning progression, being able to start over is actually often a really huge help. And I think when I first figured this out was I remember I'd worked on maybe my first AI I was really proud of, right? It was a game where had like some ships and gravity and lasers and destructible terrain, and I spent several days in a row working on it. And then because of some sort of hard drive mess up, this is back in the late 90s, early 2000s, lost all my work. I lost all the work on the AI. I still had a backup copy. My backup habits weren't nearly as good yet then. From before I started the AI stuff, I had to redo it. And at first I was pretty hit right in the morale, if you will. But what I figured out was that the second take at it was so much better. It took me less time, the code was cleaner, the reasoning was more straightforward, it was easier for me to debug, easier for me to write, easier for me to edit. All around was even in a better shape than it would have been if I had kept polishing on what I had first tried. And this is actually the same sort of thing that we're used to from in standard high school writing process, that between the second draft and the final draft, there's often revision steps where you shuffle things around. But between the first draft and the second draft, or between the rough draft and whatever comes after it, and whether you call that a first or second draft, after the rough draft, we might dump it entirely and start back over on it. And occasionally what winds up happening in the process is, if it was great and was working, we carry that forward. And if it wasn't, we don't carry it forward. And I apply this all over the place. Occasionally it's a case for a game project. Occasionally it's a case for a book project or a website article that I'm working on, script I'd be writing for an episode, whatever it might be. And I don't script these episodes, but when I wrote for Extra Credits, maybe about a year ago, these are things where it's okay to work on. I do the same thing with my Trello schedules, actually, where, I'm working on it, I kind of got it structured together, and at some point, I just kind of reevaluate from where I'm at. What's the priorities going forward? What things are really mattering to me? And that's a chance to really distill down and carry over, piece by piece, what here's really working, and how can we build around that to support that. And, again, I just can't encourage enough that this is an okay thing to have in your process, as long as you're cognizant of, this is moving my forward, I'm limiting myself, so I'm not indulging in that, again, which we know is sort of a noob temptation to just keep restarting, don't get trapped in that cycle. But maybe once per big project, it can be an okay thing to kind of say, okay, well, what if we take what we figured out so far and how we've moved our thinking about it forward from where we were before we did that thing? And that's not wasted work. That work is often essential to moving our attention forward, to us discovering through some trial and error what's working and isn't, and then we can maybe start fresh with it without having all the same sort of legacy spaghetti code, without the same sort of design, mismatched muck, whatever, with having assets that don't match each other, whatever it might have been from our first iteration through, we can come at it again. This is actually also part of Cerny method, a technique I frequently recommend people check out. It's from the early 2000s, I think 2002. Originally, there's slides online from GDC Europe, I think, as well as SIG, what would it be in Europe? GDC Europe and DICE Europe as well. Those talks are available. I'll put links in the description. Great stuff by Mark Cerny, nowadays associated with Sony. When I was a kid, he worked on Marble Madness. But anyway, part of that process is prototyping in one platform and then completely restarting the code base and everything once that prototype has essentially proven its worth to move forward on. And that helps you start fresh without all the sort of muckety-muck or compromises that had to happen to get that prototype thrashed while you kind of worked with it like clay. Because that works for short term, it does not scale out to bigger teams, bigger production cycles, bigger time frames, all that. So again, that's literally a step, as you'll find. Like I said, I'll put links in the description to the Cerny method. You'll hear it right in there. It's a really valuable tip. So anyway, that's it for today. Thanks always for tuning in. I'll have another video for you all tomorrow.